I've seen a bit.
Live now.
Ego trips.
Yeah, a little bit. Catch you later, mate.
Right.
Enkidu teaches him, Gilgamesh, to be a little bit more humble. That's what basically what the story is all about. It's a play to
a parable
to teach people humility and to be nicer to one another, and it's all a way of the elite to control people's thinking so that they don't turn on the elite.
Right.
Or they I mean,
doesn't it what it always comes down to?
They would turn on the king and kill him.
Yeah.
And so they made that illegal in the eyes of who? God. You'd go to hell if you ever did that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So guess what? Nobody's gonna go kill the king now.
No, I think that's more like it. I think that's more like the origin of this story. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah.
A parable, the first type of control parable.
It's the same kind. Like, people don't think that Buddhism is a form of control, but this attainment of enlightenment is a form of control. You do these bad things, you're not gonna progress. You do all these good things, and you don't kill, and you don't do this, and you follow these rules that we set down. The only rule that you need in life, period, end of story, is do unto others as you would have done unto you. Period. That's it. I mean, you want to be killed? Go kill somebody. You want to poke somebody's eye out? You have your eye poked out? That's the way life should be run by everybody and thought of by everybody. Do unto others.
I agree. Rather than gain advantage all the time.
You don't need any other bloody rules in life.
Do unto others, then split.
That's evil. That's pure evil. I don't like it anymore.
It's more fun though.
Yeah. Do unto others.
Split pretty quick.
No, but seriously, I see it is a control mechanism. I see that. Mm-hmm.
So this comes down to, Greg, when we were talking the other night, and that when you started on this, and you'll be, do I do this? Yeah, give it a crack, throw it out there. And they're nice short videos. Gets a bit of, things anyway. And like I said to you yesterday, so I was trying to look up. I had to remember who I had read a few years ago. So there's a bloke in California called Monty Roberts. You ever heard of him, Rick?
No.
No, obviously not. Righto. So Monty Roberts is a bloke who's done really, really well with horses. And his big thing is this. So I said this to Greg. For centuries, humans have said to horses, you do what I tell you or I'll hurt you. Humans say to each other still, threaten, force, and intimidate. I'm convinced that my discoveries, well, that could be horses, humans, anything.
Is this the horse whisperer?
Of value in the workplace. Yes.
The horse
in the
whisperer?
education and penal system, yes.
Okay,
yes.
I've seen it. I've seen one of his videos.
In the education and penal system, and in raising of children. At heart, I'm saying that none of us was born with the right to say you must or I'll hurt you to any animal or any human, right? That's one. And respect, well, his view of respect is traditional, was void of any respect for the rights, fears or desires of, well, you could call it a horse, human, whatever. So you don't care about the other person's desires or anything. You just care about number one. So, and this is true, a horse or a person needs to know who is boss. This statement qualifies to anyone who's in charge to force the pain, right? So his belief is to learn, you do it with praise and respect. For these reasons, the word breaking is quite a appropriate in traditional training. So you go to school, if you didn't do what you were told, what happened to you? You got belted, you got a belted in you, didn't you?
Or you got broke in.
No, and that's really what he's talking about. Yeah, you got broken in. yeah. So, yeah, it's taken 6,000 years to begin to realise that that's really not the best way, right? So yeah, so I read his books going back a few years ago when we were doing eventing and stuff with horses, right? Because it does seem to work a lot easier, but it takes patience. And when Greg was, I thought, yeah. So what I'm getting at is, you're right, and people like him in the modern world have sort of found it in different ways. I don't have to.
No, Andy, keep going. We're digressing, but keep going.
Well, basically, what I'm getting at, these stories are about the ultimate way of control. What Rick says is through fear and things like that. You don't have the alternative because that could empower you.
Yes. That you actually make friends with the animal and it does it voluntarily because it wants to help you, because it feels brotherly to you, or a friend, you know, and that is the way. That is the way with horses as well, and dogs. You can't make a dog love you by kicking it, you know, or a horse, and they'll do anything for you if they love you. Simple as that. So yeah.
They trust
built on fear.
It's the same with a person. If a person trusts you, a person will do so much for you.
Yeah.
Basically, modern religions have the philosophy of scare people straight, make them think that where they're headed for, if they continue this path, is so grisly that it's beyond thought. So we better repent your sins and live this way. That's the way I see all modern religions.
Yeah, control systems.
Yeah.
And when were they made? Back in the Roman days.
What is a sin? As Rick said before, the sin's really that I'm not following whoever's dictating their law. I have an alternative. And if they don't have my alternative, I'm now a sinner.
So do you think these people had space stations up there and all that, like it says, or do you think that that's really taking it too far? You know, remember Aristotle. Okay, Aristotle said that if we really knew our true origin, it would be too wild to believe. Something to that effect. So, you know, I mean,
well, we have no idea, do we? We just have no idea.
We really don't.
And the only people who know anything about it could be the mystics. You know, that these the only people, like you said, the remote viewers from antiquity. They're the only people.
Which mystic do you believe? That's the problem.
That is a problem. Yeah, I think you can only believe the consensus of them, really. Or sort of, if you can glean anything out of a consensus, then go with that. Like you say, mystics is a very, very personal. It's a personal way of looking at things, isn't it? No two people have the same vision.
How do you guys view remote viewing? Do you think it's horseshit?
No, I don't think it's horseshit.
There's something there.
Mm-hmm.
There's some kind of woogie thing going on.
Woo. Yeah.
Well, I think it has more to do with the electric force and the connection, the instant connection that the sun knows exactly where the, is at any one given second of. There has to be something going on there.
Then what about Pat Price's remote viewing aliens that actually observed him remote viewing them?
Sure, aliens. Come on. If there's an advanced species, it's probably, this is going to sound stupid and silly, but Wallace Thornhill, Electric Universe, coronas of suns are what? A plasma envelope with probably a planet or 2 or 3, maybe even inside it. Same as we were inside the brown dwarf star Saturn.
There's no doubt to me.
So if there is an advantage, I mean, they didn't go through the same thing that we went through. Our plasma shield dropping, going into this new solar environment that we're in, that changed us, that changed our Earth, that expanded our Earth, giving the Earth way more energy than Saturn could. That expanded the Earth 50% or a little, maybe a little less, but increased the gravity about 50%.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes, and that brings us. See, I have no doubt of any of that. I'm sure of it, but
I mean, we witnessed Soho and all of these cameras focused on the sun. We can see stuff going into the sun and not causing any problem, and then we see stuff shooting out of the sun, and these bubble. I'm pretty sure double layer bubble that sit there and look like they drain energy off the sun. What is that?
Yeah, no doubt. I've seen that before.
So the only thing that makes sense is if double layers can keep out temperatures of 87,000 degrees, well, don't you think that they could probably protect a ship against the sun, creating a double layer so that all that energy doesn't penetrate to the surface of the ship? Who knows? There could be a way more advanced species inside the sun, and they could have claim to this solar system too, because we're the intruders.
That's right.
We came in through Saturn. It was pulled into this solar system. Boom.
And if there were beings on the sun, they'd be very highly energetic beings as well. Not
in
necessarily
the sun, not on the sun. They would have to be inside the corona. They wouldn't survive on the surface. It's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 degrees there, man.
It is, but like you said, there's double layers, so that's the surface, and you could just go under the surface, and maybe it's cool.
No, the sun's surface is probably a double layer, but there are other double layers in its atmosphere as well. Just like
the ionosphere of the Earth.
Layers.
The ionosphere of the Earth has 400,000 volts in it.
Yeah,
of positive electricity. If it were to be ionized, the Earth would look like a star.
It's the whole. Look at the electric discharges to see the different double layers in the Earth's atmosphere. Way up high, we get the elves, and there's another type of discharge that's above the elves.
Yeah.
Then we get what? The blue jets.
The Earth and the sun are connected in real time.
Then we get the red sprites. Then we get the blue jets on top of the thunderclouds. And then we get electric discharge within the layers of the thunderclouds. And then we get the electric discharge, the short circuits between the ground and the cloud and the bottom double layer of the atmosphere. There's multiple double layers in Earth's atmosphere. The sun probably has multiple double layers as well. So does Venus so does Jupiter and Saturn. What?
So really, we are a duplicate of, you could say, in a smaller way, we are a duplicate of what you're talking about with the sun. The sun is just bigger, hotter than we are.
Hey, check this out.
And that ionosphere is doing the same to us as what you're talking about with the sun. It's protecting us.
No, the sun shortened our lives.
We can live with.
Yeah, the sun shortens our lives.
Yeah,
the sun shortened
our lives. We lived longer when we were in the red light of our star.
Yep.
Yes, but more I'm getting at, even when we're in the red light, we would have had something. There would have been something that still gave you some protection from too much energy
What the problem is all these cosmic rays and stuff that just zip right through you. Mm-hmm. If you're contained inside a corona of a sun, mm-hmm. you think any of these super heavy or super light energetic particles is going to penetrate into that plasma? No, they're going to be captured inside that plasma double layer.
That's why they lived so long.
They lived so long.
Yes. Yeah. Check this out. One day, Ingo Swan, who was a famous remote viewer, decided on remote viewing the planet Jupiter. During the time, the NASA Pioneer 10 was to make a flight around the planet. Ingo described a ring around Jupiter before the astronauts could even take a picture. And, this isn't going where I thought it was going to go. This incident was published by Stanford University. Regardless, many scientists were impressed by the information and most accepted the existence of remote viewing. Among the many different successes that Ingo Swan remote viewed, okay, maybe we're getting there, on the objects found on the moon. Unfortunately, he also went through mistreatment by some CIA officers. At times, the CIA already had information on the locations he was asked to remote view. Ingo claimed they never really needed his help. He remote viewed some aliens, I think, on the moon. You've lost me? Are you back?
Well,
so I'm saying,
yeah.
I'm trying to get to where, and he said while he was remote viewing these aliens, they discovered his presence, and he got scared, and they even tried to follow him back. That's pretty wild, man.
Yeah,
I thought this was going there, but I don't think it is. It's just talking about the CIA. But I saw Ganymede and Jupiter there, and I thought it was going to go there, but he just talks about, this is just kind of tame. I want to see the one where he was talking about having dine-outs and freaking Enceladus, and it was crazy. I'm like, oh, come on. That's got to be ridiculous. But then everybody says, no, remote viewing works. It's real. But, how do you know? It could just be your imagination.
I've had a good experience with remote viewing, Greg.
Tell me about
it. I don't know if I told you, I predicted the first three horses in the Grand National, which is a very popular horse race over here. There's about 30 horses run over a 3-mile course, and I don't know if you're aware of, it. And I got the first 3 horses. Unfortunately, you've got to be very specific with the questions you ask, and I didn't get them in the right order. I was so confident that I had the right solution that I just threw the money on the nail, didn't go each way on it or anything like that, and I would have won about. Just for a $5 bet, I would have won about £800. And
wow, man, you should have went with it.
I know. Well, I did. I went, but I put I picked the first, second, and the third horses in my confidence, in my supreme confidence. But the third came in first, and the second come in third, and the first come in second. So I got a few pounds out of it, but not like £1,000, which I would have done if I'd have asked my question right. And yes, I concentrated on the question, and the answer came to me, and it came visually. And I've done it. It's not the only time I did it, because I did these exercises, and I could really get them right, provably. Maybe more than 50% of the time, I would get a shape, and it'd work out correct. You can't exactly see when when something comes into your mind, when the question you ask for, a picture sort of formulates in your mind, you can't necessarily see what it is. It's got a shape, so you might just quickly scribble the shape down, and then you might get a feeling of blue or purple or a colour, so you'll put that down, and it all adds up. It all adds up to something. Like for me, I could picture the colour of the horses that came past the winning line and what colours the jockey had on, and that's how I did it. And it's the same with remote healing. That seems to be
it's a connection to the ether. That connection that everything shares. That electric connection that or energy connection. I don't know if you can call it electric at that point. It's some
information field. There's some information field that we can get hold of.
It builds all the electrons of all the different varieties of electrons that exist out there. The proton and the electron are probably one and the same particle, just at different energy states, at different frequency levels. I've been talking to a fellow named Robert, and he's been an interesting fellow to talk to, and I'm impressed with you know him. He's in the EPCM chat.
Robert Ashcroft.
Who is
Ashcroft? Yeah.
Robert Ashcroft.
I didn't want to use his last name.
On that thing,
damn
all right,
you.
well, check this out. Okay, I just want to read this. It's just.
we can cut that.
Can you cut that out? Don't use his name.
Yes. I'll cut it out. Okay, this is what I'm talking about right here. Ingo concludes he is likely on the dark side of the moon and is surprised to detect what he interprets as the presence of some sort of atmosphere. This, of course, would only be the beginning of his surprises on this viewing. After this unusual and comparatively tame experience, he is given another set of coordinates on the moon by Axel, at which point he becomes aware of a greenish haze. He reports that this haze appears to be emanating from a crater and surrounded by darkness. Now, I think automatically of that one crater with the blue, but this says green. Before reporting that this haze appears to be coming from actual lights given off a green hue on the top of towers of some kind. At this point, he apologized to Axel, assuming this vision must be a consequence of some kind of error, since he assumes that there cannot possibly be lights on the moon. At this point, Axel appears bewildered and asks him if he is indeed certain that he is seeing actual lights. Ingo goes on to tell Axel that the towers which possess the lights appear to be extremely large. He asks Axel if either NASA or the Soviets have some kind of secret base on the moon. He receives no answer. As Ingo wrestles through how this could possibly be, he straightforwardly asks Axel if the technology he is viewing is not ours, to which Axel responds with a grin. Quite a surprise, isn't it? Shortly after this, Axel admitted to Ingo that this psychic expedition did indeed involve attempting to interpret photographic evidence that had been acquired from the moon, but whose resolution was not adequate to the task. It is at a point that they brought Ingo in for the job. Here's the good stuff. At the next session, Axel gave Ingo more coordinates on the moon, at which point he reported towers, various machines giving off lights of various colors in the midst of unusual buildings. Some of these buildings, in Ingo's mind, had clearly been designed by some sort of being, and in some sort of a being, and for some sort of being, rather than being the product of some kind of cosmic accident. At this point, he described what he interpreted as some sort of being, males, who were either human or at least humanoid, naked and performing some kind of task on the moon. They appeared to be surrounded by a green mist and digging into a hillside or cliff. I'll just stop there. I mean, that's pretty freaking wild. And he goes on to say that they discover him and they chase him out of there. He got scared. Now, how could they discover him? Wow. That must mean there must be some kind of real physical travel of something. The Ka. that the Egyptians speak of. Perhaps. Did I lose you guys?
I think the Ka is confused for the soul, which is also confused for this connection that we all share to this ether, that we can all connect, but some are more genetically in tune to connect to it more easily. We all get feelings and deja vu and things like that.
Yeah,
we all get that. There's a basic level of connection, and then there's other levels that some of these people can see, perhaps the faint ring around Jupiter before scientists see it. If they're astral projecting, in the area of Jupiter, and they happen to look over there and they see this ring, they'd know, right?
Yeah. In his vision.
there are good things about that, but you have to remember that a lot of people in this field make it their living, and just like fiction books, they're making stuff up. Not all of it, not the base stuff that they're experiencing, but they're adding to the story to make it more, have it more
sensationalized.
Yeah, well, not sensationalized, but they're adding to the story to give it more punch.
It says some of the beings began to talk excitedly and point in his direction. Ingo explained this to Axel and asked him if they also possess psychic abilities.
Well, humans do that, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, by physically advising Ingo to physically move away from this place. At this point, Ingo began to fear for his safety and asked Axel if it were possible that they would harm or even kill an earthbound psychic if they knew that such psychic possessed the capacity to spy on what might be intended as clandestine activities. Axel assured Ingo there is no conclusive evidence to suggest that. A tepid and hardly reassuring response that caused Mr. Swan to become quite upset. Anyways, it goes on, and it's, I read this once before, and it's just what, wow, man, it's too much to believe in. I just dissed it, right? It's being nothing. But then the more people I talk to and ask about remote viewing, just about everyone I've asked about remote viewing says they think it's real.
There's something to it. I'm not going to say that it's real the way that it's described by a lot of these people and their visions that they see. A lot of it has flavor added to it, obviously.
Yes, I agree.
That's what humans do. So, but again, the base, their base experience will give them some information, because, again, we're connected to Jupiter, we're connected to Saturn, we're connected to the moon, if we're connected to the ether, and the ether is everywhere and in everything, then guess what? We're all connected to everyone and everything, and I mean, we can go there and experience that if our minds have the ability to do that, if we're genetically tuned to easily do that. Some people need to take drugs to get there.
Yeah.
Some people need to have a near-death experience to get there.
Yeah. I think people had the ability and have more likely lost it because our minds are so cluttered up with shit now,
Yep.
Thinking about
we were
rubbish.
Telepathic at one time, perhaps.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think it was more animalistic in the past. The animal mind, how.
Well, they're telepathic as well.
Well, they
yes.
I don't know if they're exactly telepathic, but they get a lot of cues from visual and verbal.
What is it they say when you're going around like a big dog? Don't show him you're afraid. He'll know. Yeah. They can smell fear.
They know where the back members are if they're far away. They can find a bird. A bird can find its mate at sea from hundreds of miles away.
And I wish I could find one.
You'll have to grow some wings, Greg.
Where's my mate? Is my mate out there?
Hey, Greg, you've got to look. Greg, you've got to be prepared to look first.
What? Where? Tell me.
You can't find the bird if you're not looking for the bird.
That's true.
Well, that's
it's not going to knock on my door, is it? I know.
That's some deep within.
Nikola Tesla says, I have observed electrical actions which have appeared inexplicable, faint and uncertain though they were. They have given me a deep conviction and foreknowledge that all human beings on this globe as one will turn their eyes to the firmament above with feelings of love and reverence. Thrilled by the glad news, brethren, we have a message from another world, unknown and remote. It reads 1, 2, 3. Nikola Tesla. He was saying beings were on Mars, communicating, trying to communicate with him. We know that there had to be some kind of civilization on Mars from all of the, what do you call it, archaeology that's there. You can clearly see it. Obelisk, what does this say? Were ETs given him the knowledge that only he could understand? He spoke of a knowledge base located somewhere in the universe that all of humanity can tap into if they could tune their minds to it.
Oh, there we are.
Was he given images to assist him in furthering mankind's technology? Every single songwriter that I know of, like Bob Dylan, Keith Richards, they all say that it's out there already and their antenna just picks it up. Could Tesla have tapped into an ancient source of knowledge? Was he rediscovering technology that may have been used before? And that's very interesting. And he says, in the past, there were stories of towers that relayed energy, obelisks found all over the world. They are all connected at some point, feeding off of Earth's magnetic grid. Well, that's the Earth is, it's electric.
I'd like to add that if we were in the purple dawn and we were inside this energetic bubble, I think that the environment the electric environment was a lot more energized than it is now. Like you string a string 100 meters or 100 feet into the air, and you can draw power off of that. If you pound a stake into the ground and connect to the one side, and in the other side, you can charge your phone. Yeah, there was more energy in the air available back then. If you do that on a mountaintop and take a drone and fly it 100 feet above you, you're going to get a lot more energy up there. You might even get a lightning bolt. Might even induce a lightning bolt.
He was trying to connect to an ancient energy grid powered by the Earth and the other planets. Like he was trying to tap into the power of the solar system.
Yeah. And
was he communicating with advanced celestial beings that visited Earth thousands of years ago?
No, the Birkeland currents and the telluric currents that run through the Earth. Our Earth receives 10 million amps every second of every day from the sun along the Birkeland currents. It comes in, it goes down in through the double layers, short circuits here and there, and goes into the planet itself, the crust. It grounds, basically. And then, where does it go after that? I think it goes even deeper and feeds into a plasmoid that the molten rock might be the plasmoid.
I think so too.
That contains all this electrical energy. Right?
Well, I think so too. And to get back to Tesla, when he built that Wardenclyffe Tower, his goal was to support these flying machines, what he'd also devised. Apparently, they were a bit too heavy and cumbersome. But the idea was that they could just remotely take the power from the tower and fly around the place. And if there were a network of them, you've got flying people. Maybe that's what was happening in ancient India with these massive lingams and towers and pictures of Vimanas everywhere whizzing around. Maybe that was a technology that Tesla kind of reimagined. You know,
it's very possible.
Yeah. And then if you look at things like the Dogon of Africa, they not only did they know about Sirius B before it was found by modern astronomers, they also were talking about Sirius C, and that was only found very, very recently, and this is ancient Dogon knowledge. And these guys.
How far did T. Townsend Brown get with his anti-gravity technology after the 1930s, when we heard no more about it? Zero.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was shut down to the public. It was not allowed to speak about this topic to the public after the news reports started coming out of that he was doing anti-gravity work, and that he had figured it out. That he put charge to these discs, and they levitated. They moved.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about what's that called? Belfield Brown?
T. Townsend Brown. He was a protege of, guess who? Nikola Tesla.
Yeah. Yes.
He worked with Tesla in the 20s and in the 10s, and he was basically a scientist. And I maintain that because of the fact that he found anti-gravity technology and figured it out, that Tesla, and the United States government, not them directly, but the CIA basically put out this aliens story, this ET story, to explain all of these crashes that they were having, for one, and all of these sightings that they were having, for two.
Yeah.
They didn't get a hold of the crashes. They didn't figure out how to control these ships until the 80s. Once they got the computing power to be able to control them better, you know.
Yeah.
So that's my thought on it.
Well, it's plausible, and also.
Well, a lot of the evidence points to it, because before that, it was talk of the gods from Sumeria, and that talk really didn't start again until the late 40s, early 50s.
Yeah.
Before that, it was just the gods, and we know them to be the planets. We know them to be the planets. There's no question. They even name them themselves as the planets. So you guys have to make a decision for yourselves. You guys gotta research all the information and come to a conclusion yourself. And know that it's stated that the CIA's main aim is to have everybody confused and believe all kinds of different things.
Yeah, like this alien invasion impending, you know.
Yeah. They're not. They say that the CIA is not supposed to mess with the American public, but they do.
Of course they have. It's a mind psyop. It's all been a psyop from the word. Most of science is a psyop.
Yeah.
Most of science is, isn't it? It's pushing belief a little bit.
Gravity is electric. That's why they can overcome it. You can create your own gravitic field just by spinning freaking Mercury. 45,000 RPMs under 250,000 atmospheres pressure. That's what they do. And it all started with Tesla and Townsend Brown. And they were anticipating this great Jetsons kind of universe in the 50s.
It.
And it
I
just
was born in the 60s and the 70s, and we were supposed to have flying cars by the 80s and 90s.
Yep,
and
flying
they were
cars.
supposed to have flying cars in the 60s,
Right.
in the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's where the Jetsons came from.
Military-industrial complex wins again, and who controls them? You know who controls them is the banksters.
Yeah,
there's somebody else above them too.
Yeah, the banksters. You got that right. That's where it's all coming from.
Yep, all the control, everything. The want to have 500,000 people only on the planet. That's for them to easily control. No other reason. No other reason.
They control the means of production.
They think we're using up all the resources. We're taking everything from their world.
Right. Yep, that's right.
That's the way they look at it. It's their planet. It's not ours. We're just,
even America. We were intended to be a plutocracy. We weren't intended to be a democracy.
Like Enki and his slave. We're just slaves to them.
Yes, that's it. Worthless eaters. That's how they look at us.
Yeah. Where do these people live?
And there you go. You've just gone back to the.
You want to go
you've just gone back to the original question.
They live in.
Oh no, you wouldn't get close enough.
Hamptons.
You wouldn't go get close enough.
Yeah, and to get the disc to move, all you have to do is apply more charge to one side or the other, and it'll move in that direction. Simple, huh?
Quite.
And
we all should have
and there's a clue to what gravity is. That's a clue to what gravity is. It's an electromagnetic force. It's a reaction of the amount of matter that's being charged by the sun that it's in, or in the interstellar space that it's in. That's all it is. Gravity is part of the electromagnetic force. Based on an atomic rule.
It has to be.
The more atoms, the more gravity, period. Like the more atoms, the more magnetic field you get too.
Okay. What did you say, Grouch?
So we're back to Enki, Anu, and Adapa. We're back to Enki, Anu, and Adapa. And stories. And stories that was getting into a really different field, because the story comes down to now what Rick's talking about, where it comes down to control and control of the means of production, which you could work in your Birkeland currents, all those things. It's a control of the means of production to the control of, I suppose you could say, the masses, or the mass.
So who were the Anunnaki?
So you could say the creation of life and all that's got nothing to do with humans. That's just pictured so that people can sort of under picture on it. You could say that it's a creation of what, like Rick's saying, it's a creation of the ether, you know.
Were the Anunnaki like giants, like gods with a little g? They came here and taught and made humanity?
They were teachers in Mesoamerica, weren't they? Mm-hmm. They taught them everything: how to grow crops, how to build houses, how to build everything. Large
white man, yes, with a beard.
Again, you come to your positive and negative ions.
What, Grouch?
Again, you come to your positive and negative ions. When you're talking about that, you know, that's what I was talking about the other night when I said to you about the biochar. So, all right, Rick or Nick might be able to answer this. What's the difference between sea salt and salt created on, you know, on ground? Did anyone know? Did you get a chance to look it up?
What?
Greg?
Did I get a chance?
I don't
The
know.
other day, right, well, when we were talking to someone a couple of weeks ago, mentioned salt coming from Saturn. Is that right? Greg?
Salt, yes.
Right, yeah.
Salt comes from Saturn, yes.
Right. Salt comes from Saturn, right?
I've never known matter to accrete salt. I've never heard of that before in my life.
Right. Okay. So I was doing some research on biochar, and when you do it, if you get it hot enough and you turn your wood to a white ash, you now have in that wood salt. So if you use a lot of that ash, from the burning of organic matter, you accumulate salts in your soil, right? But if you just get it to the charred state, you have no salt in it. So would that be a transmutation through the burning process of organic matter? So then Greg said to me, yeah, but sea salt's different, right?
Don't you think sapphire can make sodium atomically?
No problem at all.
Do you think the sun? Do you think the sun can make sodium atomically? Do you think what's going on in the atmosphere of Saturn is not making sodium?
Yes, but what I'm getting at is, what is a transmutation for it to do it? Does it have an organic, what we would call, as in through our trees, grasses, the organic matter, right? That's one way to get it. But right, that's what I'm getting at. That's what my question was. When I said to Greg, it was just like, we come across where salt comes from Saturn, right? But then it would appear also that we produce salt here too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what I'm saying is, say all our salt came from Saturn may not necessarily be the correct answer. We produce, so that's why we have, in areas of the world now, we have problems where we have high salt levels, where we can no longer produce food.
Look at the Dead Sea. It's just piles and piles and piles of it.
Yes.
Yep.
Had to come from somewhere. Look at Jesus chasing them out of the temple. That a boy, Jesus. Get him.
Turn them tables, bruh.
Get them bankers.
Yeah, banksters.
I think there is. I think there's an element of this production of, for example, they reckon chickens can make their own calcium if there's no calcium around. They can produce calcium out of phosphorus or potassium or something like that, which is the next one to sodium, I think, and maybe life forms are actually producing some salt.
We do transmutations in our body. It's proven fact that humans do transmutations. There was the case of the welders who were breathing in
argon or
they were breathing in some gas, and it was giving them CO2 poisoning or something like that. It was their lungs were transmuting that gas into another chemical that was not good for them. So we do atomic transmutations in our body. That's nothing new. We're a microcosm of the macrocosm, boys and girls.
I think we are. Yeah, we're a little plasmoid. Each one of us is a little plasmoid in our own right, knocking around.
Apparently, we have two. Yeah. One in our head, and the other one is our heart. Because if you look at the heart muscle, it's if you took a heart muscle and put it on a table and cut it in the right areas, you can make it into a strip. It's basically a strip, rolled up.
I was gonna go somewhere. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but apparently the heart kicks out a bigger electric field than the brain does, and I think the stomach kicks out an even bigger one.
That's because of the muscles. That's that muscle pumping.
If you look at it, and if you look at it, it's probably a good case, which may come out in the future, where the brain's only a storage. It's the heart and the gut.
It might not. It might not even be a storage vehicle. It may, in fact, be a vehicle that, when we upload to the cloud or God or the ether, our experiences and that we can retrieve them very readily because the synaptic patterning, we just go and we can pull it back out of the ether instantly. That may be how our brains.
Yes, because again, Greg said to me when he was working on one of his videos with this empty animal, why would you not choose eternal life? Didn't you, Greg? Remember that?
Yes, I did.
You said, I did choose eternal life. And my answer was, yes, but then you cannot be reborn. You can only be once. That's it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you could never be reborn.
I like that. Oh, great.
That means you can never produce. You can never reproduce. Which means what's there today is there forever. Which goes back to Rick talking about what the elites don't want all of us. Right.
I was reading. I wanted to find something that Velikovsky talks about this very thing, salt on the earth.
Oh, yeah, it's interesting.
And he has ash too. That's but something said here.
You got to remember that pure sodium, is one thing. The sodium that we have on our planet, when they say isotopic, they're talking about other isotopes included into the mix. That includes deuterium, which is a form of sodium, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
deuterium is
deuterium.
Yeah, deuterium
hydrogen.
water is it's a form of it's an isotope. It's not a form of sodium. It's an isotope that is in the water on Earth. We have the same concentration
hydrogen.
of sodium. We have the same concentrations of what did I just say? Deuterium and other isotopes.
Tritium.
In our water on the Earth that have been found in the rings of Saturn. This identical. The word used was the isotopes are identical.
Yeah.
Identical.
Yeah.
So that tells us something, folks.
That does.
That most of our water came from Saturn.
We're all connected. Well, we're all connected. We're all connected.
Here it is, right here. I found.
You know what I mean, Rick? We're all connected. That's why they say, you and I have 98% the same DNA as every other living thing on this planet. Yep. We're all connected.
Yep.
Check this out.
Right, the whole solar that we're in is connected, probably the whole Milky Way. Yeah, go, Greg.
Of the salts of the sea, sodium chloride is by far the most abundant. This is from Velikovsky. The provenance of it is, however, a riddle. It was, and still is, assumed that the salts in the oceans originated mainly through the importation from land, having been dissolved from rocks by flowing rivulets and rivers, themselves fed by underground sources, and the same process working on the rocks of the seabed. Terrestrial formations are rich in sodium, and in eons of time it is assumed the sodium washed out of the rocks supplied its content to the oceans. The seas evaporate and the concentration of these salts grows. but rocks are by far not so rich in chlorine, and hence the problem. From where did chlorine come to contribute its abundance to oceanic water? There is chlorine in source water, but usually not in significant amounts. The proportion of salts in the rivers is very different from their proportion in the seas. River water has many carbonates, 80% of the salts, fewer sulfates, 13%, and still fewer chlorides, 7%. Seawater has many chlorides, 89%, fewer sulfates, 10%, and only a few carbonates, 0.2%. The comparison of these figures makes it clear that rivers cannot be made responsible for most of the salts of the seas.
Yep. Because if they were emptying
and he says that it's very few.
Seas, they would be in that the amounts that are in fresh water. It wouldn't be salt water. Period.
Mm-hmm. You know, but humans are.
And he says there, Greg, he says there's very few carbonates, 0.02%, and that's what I was saying. The carbonate virtually zero salt.
Well, I mean, if you have to remember, the Earth and Mars are children of Saturn. We were inside the envelope. We were probably created out of the body of Saturn, and if not out of the body of Saturn, right next to it, and then pulled into Saturn's influence, like Saturn was pulled into the Sun. Right, but I think we were probably Saturn spitting out a planet or two during its its time of.
That's probably a natural thing.
Yeah, so why wouldn't we have the same surface materials as in rocks of different types and magma, and it would all be the same as Saturn anyway. And then during the deluge, they say that the heavens opened up. That means space, folks. A lot of this water came from space. They saw it fall.
Well, listen to this. They're saying they can't explain where the chlorines come from, which in to my knowledge is a green gas. It's just interesting that Ingo Swan saw these guys digging around in green gas on the dark side.
Yes,
of the moon.
Isn't it? I'm serious. I know that.
I wonder if there's chlorine up there in that thin atmosphere. I wonder if that's the moon.
It's not something. The chlorine is not something that the Earth manufactured or was deposited. It was deposited by, guess who? Saturn. Probably during the birthing process. Giving us all the elements, the same elements that planet has.
The most obvious and permanent effect of a deluge of extraterrestrial origin on the Earth would be the increase in its water volume and of the place occupied by the seas. Presently, 4/5 of the Earth are covered with water. A stupendous addition of water to the Earth should have decreased, not increased, its salinity, if the water came down in a pure state. But if the Earth was showered by torrents of hydrogen and water, some other ingredients of the Saturnian atmosphere could have also swept across the Earth's orbit. Yeah. So yeah, he's saying it came from Saturn. Yeah. And back to that Ingo Swan thing, I'm telling you, man, I just touched on this, the whole thing. He's saying that they got these freaking towers that are 1.5 miles tall, and these giant machines that are digging, and what the heck are they mining, you know? And they caught him spying on him. That's even crazier.
Yeah. We'll never know.
I know. It's just, if there is an elder race, let's say, of giants or extraterrestrials, They're probably keeping an eye on us, but they're not going to interfere, I don't think, you know. But there are probably more than one. Maybe there are many. Maybe we're really a prison planet. Have you ever heard that theory?
Sure, yeah.
I don't think so.
No, I don't either. But
No,
it is a theory that we are a prison planet.
It's getting that way. Certainly getting that
exactly.
way.
I know. What if it was like that once before? And the sinister forces are trying to recapture their domain.
I think so.
It seemed like that. The whole one world government thing. We already have a one world government. We have pretty much the same laws as you do in England, as you do in Canada, and as you do in Australia. See, we're worldwide here on Greg J Channel. That's right.
Yeah. That's
but
right. We all pretty much all the good jobs are gone.
That's because we're all at the moment controlled by the American dollar, which is controlled still by the British pound.
Exactly. The British Empire still runs the show.
Fucking hell. I wish I were part of it.
Yeah, me too. But, I'd probably just be a nice guy. Everybody go. They'd kill me.
Printing his own money was a big no-no.
Yes. He turned the entire business world against him. The steel companies hated him. Obviously the bankers hated him. Military-industrial complex hated him. The Pentagon hated him. What?
The oil companies hated him.
Yes.
The oil companies in Texas hated him.
They hated him big time. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and is it a wonder that he didn't survive?
No.
All these powerful corporations and people.
And he was a socialist. And he was a socialist. He brought in medical benefits for people over 60.
Yes, he did. Yes.
Transportation system, and all those things, you know, all that because, you know, they provided for all those years.
He was for
Here's a little bit in return. Oh, you can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that. That's socialism and communism.
That's right.
Recognise people's needs,
and now, they want to do the universal basic income in the United States and in Canada and in all the Western countries.
What's that?
What's that? Oh, you can sit at home and make money just by doing nothing.
What?
You get a universal basic income.
Nick, you there?
Well, yeah,
universal basic income. I never heard about that.
That's not quite right, is it? Because you have a form of that sort of in some areas in England now as a trial.
Yeah, I'm on it, yeah.
Where you get a back. Yeah, they are. Now, Nick will explain it, Rick, because it's not what we all think. Right, Nick, explain how it works.
Yeah, what it is basically, if you're unemployed, you'll get, say, £70 a week. If you've got kids, you'll get £30 a week for each one of them. If you've got an house, you can get up to like £350 a month.
That's nothing. You can't live on that.
Yes, but then if you then get a job, and you only earn £100 a week, you still get the basic, your universal income. Then it's built up to that.
I get it.
So you'll always get that kind of money, but
we're going to be a welfare world.
Well, yep. It is that.
That's what it is.
No, we're not, Rick. No, we're not.
And
no,
then,
we're not. Even the playing field down the finish will always show.
If you're working, and the company will pay you more than the basic income, which not many companies can afford to pay you the £20 an hour and all this lot. So you might get £8 an hour with a 0 hours contract, which means you've got to show up for work every day, and if they don't want you, they'll just say piss off, come back tomorrow, and you just claim your basic your universal income for that day, even though you've gone to work and been told to piss off. So you just claim your universal income for that day.
I thought that everybody gets a certain income and it comes off on your taxes, that you have to, if if you're working, you basically pay it back in your at the end of the year in your taxes. That's the way I thought it worked.
It is basically similar to that, except you don't get taxed unless you. I think you've got to earn. You get your tax back, or under 12,000 a year or something like that, pounds a year, and the average wage in my town is £15,000 a year, and you can't really get a mortgage, or you can just about pay rent on that, you know. So people have got about a month's money in their banks with it. If they don't work for a month, they've got nothing. That's most of the people in this country. So they've got us where they want us, you know, simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
So hence the mask wearing, hence the get jabbed with whatever they want to jab you with. Just do what you're told, because pretty soon you're all going to be living in a big smart city, and not allowed to go into the beautiful free world
countryside.
Not yet.
That's all fenced off.
That's all.
That's not making any more beef.
No animals.
Nick, that's about equation. Did you think, and if you did the one for Canada and Greg did the one for America, you're saying the average wage would be, what, £25,000 a year?
Yeah, it's meant to be that.
The average person in your area would earn about 24, righto. So in Australia, the minimum wage is about around $19 an hour.
Wow.
So that works out at $37,500 a year. But if you do the dollar conversion to the British pound, that works out at about £25,000 a year.
Yeah.
You know, so it works out it equals sort of, if you get what I mean. And you'd probably find, if Greg looked at his area where he is, and Rick where he is, you'd probably find it would work out. So the average person just working, that would be about the same for them too now.
I don't think they're anywhere near 25,000. I think if you go down to London, then maybe 25,000, but up here certainly not. Not a chance. There aren't many people earning 25,000. Well, I suppose there are now. Yeah, thinking about it, there probably are a few.
Yeah, so by the time they pay their rent, buy their basics, go to the odd soccer game, they're pretty much skinned.
Oh yeah, you won't save much money out of that, will you? No. By the time you rent any car, petrol, nothing.
You rent your car,
with most people, that 25,000 will help you survive.
That's all it is. Yeah, that'll help.
And then that'll breed a whole bunch of people that just don't want to do nothing. They'll just sit at home and relax and say, "Oh, I'm comfortable in this apartment. I can pay the rent. I can do a couple of little side jobs here and there, you know." And not good for.
What you have is a society that has no expectations of improving, if you get what I mean. They have no desires. They don't see the old thing of each generation you sort of become more educated and go a little further up sort of the social scale. They just become happy to live as part of the backwater of the tribe.
Well, most people have degrees. Most people have degrees now. But
their degrees in what?
No, people couldn't afford to go to university 30 years ago, and now everyone's got to go. Everyone's got degrees, but there's no jobs for anyone. There are no jobs. It's completely impossible almost to set up a winning business unless you've got unless you're a window cleaner or something like that. But to set up to become an entrepreneurial is not a very easy thing in this in our society anymore. The odds are stacked against you.
Yeah, you got to be connected, don't you, Nick?
You've got to be connected.
So what I mean is, what are they all doing their degrees in?
Sociology.
Whether you're a man or a woman or something like that. There you go.
Sociology, yeah. It's all sociology.
Yeah. So, that just gives them 5 years off the unemployment numbers.
Well, they're all just basically paying to go and get brainwashed into how to be a compliant global citizen.
Well, yeah. This is pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and we're kind of through the subject, and we talked about it pretty good. I think it's pretty talked out. And
don't forget, they also minor in ecology.
We've only been going for an hour? I thought we were going for a lot.
Ecology, yeah.
No,
I have another talk that I read.
An hour and 59 minutes.
An hour and 11 minutes. But I have another...
No, an hour and 59 minutes, Ted.
Hold on a second. I got another talk that I recorded with us, too. Let me see. Are you looking at it? Am I giving you a view of it? No, here. Turn this off. There it is. Okay. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because this might be... when I was talking about Wayne Byrne, he mentioned that his timeline for that, and it sounds pretty good too. I mean, it could be a good, decent start for a timeline, would be 32,000 BC when Saturn came in for the last time. And I got a 3-minute audio, just started doing it. So I'll play this for you. It's pretty interesting. The oldest lunar calendars. The oldest lunar calendars and earliest constellations have been identified in cave art found in France and Germany. The astronomer priests of these late Upper Paleolithic cultures understood mathematical sets, an interplay between the moon annual cycle, ecliptic, solstice, and seasonal changes on Earth. The first lunar calendar, the archaeological record's earliest data that speaks to human awareness of the stars and heavens, dates to the Aurignacian culture of Europe, circa 32,000 BC. Between 1964 and the early 1990s, Alexander Marshak published breakthrough research that documented the mathematical and astronomical knowledge in the late Upper Paleolithic cultures of Europe. Marshak deciphered sets of marks carved into animal bone and thickens, and occasionally on the walls of caves. As records of the lunar cycle. These marks are sets of crescents or lines, Artesian's carefully controlled line thickness that suggests a snake deity or streams and rivers. Aurignacian lunar calendar diagram drawing after Marshak A. 1970. Notation.
Dans Lake Reviers du Paleolithic Superieur, Bordeaux, Delmas/Dans Maps.
Bordeaux, Delmas/Dans Maps. Many of these lunar calendars were made on small pieces of stone, bone, and antler, so that they could be easily carried. These small, portable, lightweight lunar calendars were easily carried on extended journeys, such as long hunting trips and seasonal migrations. Hunting the largest animals was arduous and might require hunters to follow herds of horses, bison, mammoth, or ibex for many weeks. Other big animals, such as the auroch, that was like a cow, cave bear, and cave lion, were well known, but rarely hunted for food because they had special status in the mythical realm. The auroch is very important to the search for earliest constellations. The phases of the moon depicted in these sets of marks are inexact. Precision was impossible unless all nights were perfectly clear, which is an unrealistic expectation. The arithmetic counting skill implied by these small lunar calendars is obvious. The recognition that there are phases of the moon and seasons of the year that can be counted, that should be counted because they are important, is profound. Everything in life is in phases, whether it's the moon or life. Even Saturn theory came in phases. All animal activities are time factored, simply because time passes. The future is forever arriving. The reality of time factoring is objective physics and does not depend upon human awareness or consciousness. Until Marshak's work, many archaeologists believe that sets of marks he chose to study were nothing but the aimless doodles of bored toolmakers. What Marshak uncovered is the intuitive discovery of mathematical sets and the application of those sets to the construction of a calendar. Bone is the preferred medium because it allows for easy transport and a long calendar lifetime. Mankind's earliest astronomy brought the clan into the multi-dimensional universe of the gods. Objects used in most potent rituals had the highest contextual cultural value and were treated with great reverence. Yes, indeed. There's another part to that I haven't recorded yet, but I got started anyway. And, Grouch, are you there? Getting kind of low on gas here. And, what is channeling? Every day my inner voice gets a little louder and a little clearer. Affirmation for the day. Learning that you too are a channel of spirit can be a means of spiritual awakening. The highest psychic realization, Casey declared, is that God talks directly to human beings. Edgar Casey. What is channeling? In its most general sense, it's a means of transmission. The channel receives and passes along information. Inspiration and creativity are aspects of channeling. Being able to elevate others to higher states of consciousness and bring out the best in people. Edgar Casey's work is known as classic channeled metaphysical literature. We are all channels of divine energy. It is transmitting something which is beyond one's personal self. A channel may be asleep in meditation, in a trance, or awake while channeling. There are as many ways to channel as there are individuals that channel. A channeler brings forth information that's not part of the channeler's own learning or experience. Every day in countless ways, you and I are channels of spirit, of ideas, and of resources that come from beyond our conscious personalities. Our channeling abilities have profound impact on our own lives and the lives of those around us. We can become aware of this fact. We can realize that we're channelers and can consider which types of channeling we wish to perfect and use. Rather than channeling without awareness of what you're doing, we can take a more active, creative role in our channeling. In doing so, we assume our birthright. Our mission in life is to become a channel of blessings to others by the way we willingly choose to channel our energies. Listen to your intuition, the channel of your guardian angel. I am directly connected to infinite intelligence. Today's affirmation. Intuition is the highest form of psychic ability. Edgar Casey. Intuition as a channel of guidance. Intuition is information that comes to you from universal intelligence or God. And in this respect, it's referred to as channel. It guides you on your path to your highest good. The psychic side of intuition. Intuition never comes randomly. There is always a purpose, a reason. Intuition is more than psychic ability. It draws a conclusion and directs your actions, like a faithful guide dog who know you
and knows what's best for you. Many times, intuition guides our actions without our knowing it. All knowledge is within. Casey defined intuition as knowing from within. Two keystones of Casey's teachings: knowing that all knowledge comes from within, learning to look within. Zen archery. Eugene Harajel traveled to Japan to learn about Zen. Finally, Master Kenzo Awa, the revered archer, agreed to work with him. Eugene spent countless hours learning how to draw the long and very stiff Japanese bow. He shot at no target. He learned the target was an inward one, a state of mind. Finally, during the 5th year, the master brought out a target and demonstrated shooting. The master could hit the target every time without hardly looking. He joked that his master had learned to shoot in his sleep. Later that evening, at the master's studio, he revealed an amazing secret. In pitch blackness, the master shot at a target twice and hit it both times dead center. The master explained that we believe we need our eyes to see because we believe the world is out there beyond us. If you separate yourself from the target, then you have to learn the trick of how to hit it with the arrow. The art is to become one with the target, allowing the arrow to return to its natural home. An archer who aims the arrow at a target is merely a trick shot. The archer who becomes the target is on the path to realizing Zen's great secret. The great secret to developing intuition is to follow the path because it leads to our true nature, one with God, not because we want to become psychic. Intuition is everything, the secret of unitary oneness. We are all one. All of creation is one. There is one spirit or energy that unites all of creation. It connects all human beings with one another and with everything else in creation. Although we may appear to one another as separate, disconnected beings, we are each extensions of the Creator's Spirit. What happens to one of us touches us all. There is a unified psychic ecology among all events in creation. God created human souls out of the Creator's own being. Each soul is a projection of God. In the same way, our thoughts and images are projections of our mind. Although each soul has its individuality, all souls are one spirit. Each soul is like a miniature universe. I've often thought inside of each being is a universe. Like a drop of water in the ocean, each person has intimate knowledge of all creation. Modern science states that creation is holonomic. When you aim a laser beam at a holographic plate, the beam bounces off the plate and projects a three-dimensional picture in space. This project looks solid and as real as the actual plate. Being psychic is an inherent natural attribute of the soul. Intuition draws upon its universal knowledge that is psychically available to the soul, the superconscious mind. There is only one mind. This single living reality is a universal mind that we all have in common. Mind is like the air we share. Although we each have our own separate lungs to touch the air, there is only one air. Conscious mind, the lowest form of the mind, focuses on the physical world. Each of us appears distinctly separate from one another, channel of sensory information. Subconscious mind. All subconscious minds of both the living and the dead are in contact with one another, remembers everything from all lifetimes, stored in the Akashic records, located in the subconscious mind. Channel of telepathic information, gets knowledge from the other people's thoughts and experiences. Superconscious mind, channel of clairvoyance, gets information directly from the oneness of life, taps into the knowledge from the universal mind. Intuition is a super channel, taking advantage of info coming through all the other channels. Developing intuition. 7 major principles. As you become consciously one with life, you become more consciously intuitive. Empathy and love are the highest forms of attunement for intuition. A need to know something stimulates intuition. Intuitive knowledge comes from within. Intuition requires an acceptance of what spontaneously comes from within. Our first thought, feeling, or image. Genuine intuitions are inconsistent with our highest values or ideals. Honoring your intuition by acting on them or affirming them. Lightning analogy. Imagine that your intuition is like a lightning rod. The lightning up in the sky is the infinite intelligence, the energy that seeks expression when it's needed. You want to bring the lightning down from the sky. If you don't provide a ground, a connection with Earth, the lightning won't come down your channel. Being prepared to put intuitions into service provides the necessary grounding. Spend time in nature. This is the best way to cultivate intuition, by spending time in nature. It's the perfect way to practice oneness with life. A little bird told me. Birds are a common symbol of telepathic intuitive messages. Intuition is empathy. Casey's concept of oneness, harmony, resonance, and communion. Attunement. When we attune to something, we become one with it, or in alignment with it. Nature meditation. Choose something in nature to meditate on. It could be a flower, like a rose, a tree, or maybe the sounds of nature, or even a bird or squirrel sitting quietly. Empathically merge with this energy and become one with it. For example, if you choose a rose, become a rose yourself. Begin to feel as the rose feels from within yourself. Imagery will rise that expresses your affinity with the rose. Thus, you will come to know the rose intuitively. Unless you're like me and you can meditate to music, that's the best way I have found that I can do it and be patient enough to sit still. You close your eyes, clear your mind, and let the music take you wherever. Quiet the mind and soothe the soul. Where was I? Hearing voices. Intuitions often come as feelings. Sometimes they come as voices. The Natural Depth of Man by Wilson Van Dusen. In his book, Wilson shared his experience with mentally ill patients who heard voices. He learned that there are good voices and there are bad voices. The patients reported hearing different voices, voices that spoke with different tones and spoke different things. There were voices that were highly critical and said terrible things. He coached the person to speak back to the voices, to tell them to stop. They also heard voices that spoke kind words and had encouraging things to say. He helped the person to learn how to listen to those voices. These inner helpers could offer advice about the person's recovery. So in other words, his inner voices were his higher self? That's pretty crazy, if true. As mental health returned, the bad voices went away, but the good voices remained as helpers and guides. Anchor your channeling by being clear about your purpose for receiving information. By having some purpose focused on serving a need, we direct the active part of our channel in a constructive manner. The cross-current of our subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is like a strong cross-current we have to swim through as we reach upward to the superconscious mind to access intuition. The subconscious mind may be filled with many different voices, good and bad. The superconscious mind is filled with pure love, light, and harmony. Our purpose helps us attune to the highest source of guidance. Learning to listen to the still small voice. Practice exercise. Begin with a difficult decision you have to make. Think through the alternatives. Consider your values and purposes and make your best decision. Make a tentative commitment to follow through on that decision. Making that commitment is necessary to arouse your entire being in the contemplation of that decision. Hypothetical thoughts don't excite the intuitive faculty, for it's of a more practical bent. Next, sit down and get as quiet as you can within yourself. This step is the attunement. Focus on the feelings evoked by your highest values and your ideals. When you are in the frame of mind that is resonating with your ideals, ask yourself if your decision is a good one. There will be a response to that question within you, a yes or no. That response is the voice of intuition. You may experience it as a voice, a feeling, or a thought. An answer will be there. It's usually the very first thing that comes to mind. Learning to trust intuition. Trust. Accept the first thing that comes to mind is one of the hardest aspects of learning intuition. It involves trust. Tip: accent your first response and save your evaluation, analysis, and criticism for later. Yes. Remember, intuition is like a loving friend. It's there to help and guide you toward your highest good. The guardian angel. Intuition guides and guards us, inspires us, brings experience of spiritual meaning. Sometimes it speaks like an inner voice. Sometimes it brings feelings, like joy or dread. It nudges us. It guides us without our awareness. Its promptings may be subtle or loud. It is one face of the higher self. Intuition performs all the services we might expect of a guardian angel. In fact, within each of us is a guardian angel. Where is my guardian angel? Inside of you. Yep. Casey says that our guardian angel resides where our portion of the superconscious mind becomes the one universal mind. It is that part of us that hasn't forgotten our oneness with God and knows of no separation from God. The guardian angel thus has no free will of its own, but it serves only the will of God, or the universe if you prefer. The actions of our intuition aren't the response of our free will. They are voluntary, spontaneous responses of our guardian angel, drawing us closer to the experience of oneness. Chapter 3. Dreams, the nightly channel of the higher self. Today's affirmation. I will remember my dreams in the morning and any helpful messages they may hold. As we fall asleep, our intuition, our sixth sense, not only remains awake, but also becomes more expansive. There is no awareness of a separate self. There is simply being, deep, silent sleep, pure intuition, pure psychic oneness. Did you ever notice when you enter a dream, you always enter it in the middle of it? You never have a beginning or an ending, it seems. For me, anyway. I heard that somewhere, but I can't remember where. Dreams is a channel of psychic experience. A study of 9,300 documented cases of psychic experiences showed that 57% of these occurred in dreams. Dreams are a channel of which we obtain information, important information, about the future. 8% of the population, over 2 million Americans, have had a dream that foretold in explicit detail of an event that later happened. Casey said that anything of importance that would ever happen to us, we would first preview in a dream. The nightly channel of the higher self. Dreams are perhaps the most profound channel of the higher self. 6 ways dreams function as a channel. They are themselves real experiences in the spiritual dimension. I've often thought that. They provide readings on our current life. They provide us with a way to contact God. They are inspirational, teaching us lessons. They are creative, presenting solutions to problems. They are psychic, seeing into the future. Dreams, the healthcare channel. Dreams are also a channel of preventative healthcare and healing. While we sleep, our inner physician is always in attendance. Dreams may warn about developing illness, giving advice about treating health issues, and even providing direct healing. There is evidence that during the dream state, the body is receptive to new programming. The synthesis of new DNA molecules while dreaming could spark a reversal in a disease process. Book The Inner Eye, Your Dreams Can Make You Psychic, Joan Windsor. Dreams as a Channel of Many Mysteries. Our Dreaming Mind, History, and Psychology by Bob Van de Castle. Encyclopedia of Documented Cases of Wondrous Dreams that have shaped the course of history. Muhammad had his first experience of religious, calling it a dream. The Bible is full of examples of God talking to people in their dreams. Creative inspirations occur in dreams. Musicians have dreamed music. Artists dreamed art. Authors dreamed stories, etc. Dreams and Dreaming by Edgar Cayce. Hundreds of dreams by ordinary people interpreted by Cayce. Dreams come from our subconscious mind, expressing our fears and wishes. Dreams also come from our superconscious mind, the work of our higher self. Meeting the higher self. Author shares that he was in the early stages of alcoholism when he had a dream about a drunkard in a sacred forest sanctuary, and he was judging as he conversed with the caretaker. It turned out that the caretaker was the author's higher self, and the drunkard was actually himself. The lesson was to have more compassion for himself. An encounter with the higher self leads the dreamer through surprising turns into a deeper understanding of the meaning of one's problem. Who is the higher self? The higher self appears in many guises. It understands that there is a purpose in all things. It views all experiences as opportunities for growth and learning. The more you work with your dreams, the more you will realize there is a larger intelligence at work directing your life. Analogy. It's as if you are the driver of the car, but not its owner. At any time, however, you may hear a voice behind you declare, "Turn right here, Henry." Such moments remind you that you are really only the chauffeur. Although you have to steer and brake the car, the true master of the vehicle is sitting in the back seat, your higher self. Cayce explains that the higher self is the seeing eye of the soul's awareness of itself. The soul is our true identity. Ego has access to conscious mind. Higher self has access to subconscious and superconscious mind. Whether or not the higher self appears in your dreams, it is at work in many of them. There are many theories out there, and through hard work with Zeodin, this is what I, Julie, know to be true. We have an ego, physical form, spirit, soul, and higher self. These are each separate entities, yet one energy. Our spirit is attached to our ego. When we die, our physical form dissolves, but our spirit lives on, in whatever egoic form we attain while on earth. Our soul is connected to our spirit. I always thought that that's why we have to sleep, because our soul and spirit have to connect and record the things that happened in our life that day. Our soul is more advanced, pure light, and holds memories of all of our lifetimes, and evolves with every lifetime we experience. Our higher self is connected to our soul. It is our purest form. When we stop incarnating, our soul dissolves back into the oneness, and we are left with the higher self, which is always our connection to God, to Source, to universal intelligence, to the oneness, the sea of awareness. I would love to hear your thoughts on what resonates for you. Casey, explanation of the dream. What is a dream? As we fall asleep, our intuition, our sixth sense, not only remains awake, but also becomes more expansive. Our entire body, our whole being, begins to function as an ear that listens intuitively. We merge with creation and resonate with all that we hear. There is no awareness of a separate self. There is simply being, deep, silent sleep, pure intuition, pure psychic oneness. If you dissolve into the universe during sleep, how do you come back in the morning as yourself? Fortunately, it's in the deep sleep that we are most closely attuned with our guardian angel consciousness. It guards us while we are asleep, protecting the pattern of our individuality. It beams us back to ourselves intact. Our soul evaluates our life during sleep. Our soul examines our life during our sleep and uses its superconscious perspective to determine if we are on course, aha, or not, uh-oh. The experience the soul has while we are asleep is what we remember as a dream. Whether or not our dreams reflect our soul's experiences depends upon the level of our personal development. Anything we wish to know or experience can be safely obtained in our dreams. Dream incubation, opening the channel. The author Henry Reed does a dream study in which he sets up a dream tent, as outlined in his book, Getting Help from Your Dreams. Casey points out that we can actively seek helpful dreams. The intention to apply what you already know is the seed of further inspiration. Dreams grow from what is on your mind while falling asleep. So be careful what you are thinking about as you drift to sleep. Dreams help us become ourselves and create our own lives. Suggestion: actively seek helpful dreams by focusing on a question or solution to your problem. Before you fall asleep, ask that you be shown through your dream how to solve the problem or what your next step to attaining success is. When you wake up, check in with yourself before you move your body. Remember, every time your body moves, you forget more and more of your dream. That's true too. I mean, I'll have a dream, wake up, and with my first act, forget what I dreamed about. So that is true. That is true. Preparing to channel a dream of guidance. Phrase focusing. Living Your Dreams by Gail Delaney. Write out your feelings about your question to get all your thoughts on paper. Then reduce your question to a single phrase that expresses the heart of the matter. Repeat this phrase to yourself as you fall asleep. The Dream Quest Workbook by Henry Reed. Write a letter to your dreams asking for their advice. In your letter, outline what you already know about the problem and what you are going to do about it. Invite your dreams to show you a better way. Put the letter under your pillow when you go to bed at night. As you fall asleep, imagine yourself following through on your own plan. I know Edgar Cayce, it is said he could sleep on top of a book and know the book when he woke up. Now, that sounds almost impossible to me, but as they say, I guess nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible. A study done at an ARE conference showed that 2 out of 5 people who remembered a dream after using the pillow technique found the answer in the dream to be just as helpful as a psychic reading. Learn to recall dreams. An exercise in channeling. Learn to recall your dreams can be a good exercise in your own channeling abilities. 1. Before you fall asleep at night, repeat to yourself, I will remember my dreams in the morning, and any helpful messages they may hold. 2. Lie still in bed when you wake up. 3. You may have no distinct images. That's okay. Be patient. 4. Become aware of subtle feelings. 5. Allow the feelings, colors, or shapes time to blossom into memories or images. The information is there in how you are feeling. Simply let it flow forth. Trust. And 9. Keep a journal by your bed and write down any images or thoughts that come to mind. That seems like a lot of work. Don't worry about remembering all the details. Pick out one thing that stands out in your mind. Maybe it's a color or an object. And as you move through your day, ask the question, what relevance does this have in my life? How can this help me? Channeling dreams into action. In the application comes the awareness. Practice, practice, practice. The best book on dreams is the one you write yourself. Hugh Lin. When people meditate, it improved their dream recall the following day. When people applied a dream insight one day, the next morning their dream was clearer and easier to understand. Dreams are experiences of our higher self, creations of our soul. Cayce's simple secrets to learning to interpret your dreams. 1. Have a purpose for recalling your dream and write it down. 2. When you recall a dream, write it down. 3. Find something in the dream, anything, that you think could be a clue. 4. Think of a way to test the validity of the clue or your understanding of it by a simple, practical application. Find or make up an insight from the dream. 5. Do something constructive about it. Example, write down the results of your experiment and compare them with your own standards. If you do this, Cayce assures that you will have a follow-up dream to further clarify or deny your conclusions. Practice exercise. Record your dream. Write down whatever comes to mind. Find something in your dream that you can make come true that day. If you saw the color red, wear something red that day. Bringing something of our inner experience into our outer lives completes a circuit of energy. Doing this is part of learning to channel. Questions and exercises. 1. I would love to hear your thoughts on the subchapter, Who is the Higher Self? What resonates for you? 2. Actively seek helpful dreams exercise. Focus on a question or a solution to a problem before you fall asleep. Ask that you be shown through your dream how to solve the problem, or what your next step to attaining success is. When you wake up, check in with yourself before you move your body. Remember, every time your body moves, you forget more and more of your dream. Then report back. 3. When you wake up, pick out one thing that stands out in your mind from your dream. Maybe it's a color, an object. Don't worry about remembering the details. As you move through your day, ask the question, what relevance does it have in my life? How can this help me? I think I just read that twice. Oh, they got it written twice. Okay. Chapter 4, The Creative Channel of the Mind, What We Think We Become. Today's affirmation, I create my own reality. If I don't like what I've created, I can simply create it again. We live our lives as channels of energy. Energy isn't ours to own because it belongs to life itself, but it's ours to use, to channel what we think we become. Have you ever had a dream that you talked to a deceased loved one? I have several times. It seemed so real. That means that we are just temporary visitors here, learning along the way, which is what I have always thought ever since I could remember, especially when I was little. I've just always thought that. Our real self is plasma or ether or something. Love and light. I know that's such a cliche now, right? It's got to be something like that, an ethereal body. And the line between us, the other side, is probably really paper thin. I ad-libbed this with a little help from me notes. And here it is. It's called Trials and Trails. And then that'll be it. I'll say goodnight. Holton C.R., astronomer with modern Galileo. Trials and Trails. I do not understand this. The gravity only redshift expanding universe idea that has been around since I can remember was disproven by Holton C.R. in 1966 and again by Eric Lerner in 1996. Astronomer Arp was looking at peculiar galaxies, of which he wrote an atlas of them. In 1966, he noticed that higher energy galaxies that were called Seyfert galaxies, named after their discoverer, had a supercharged core and were spitting out quasars. Now, he has noticed that these quasars were not at the edges of the known universe. That standard model cosmologist wanted people to think that they were, but they are populated near the parent galaxy. For example, galaxy NGC 7603 has several of these quasar bodies populated close to the galaxy, connected by filament of charged plasma. Each quasar has a different rate of recession, and Arp correctly figured out that if they were all connected to the parent galaxy, then a huge part of redshift had to be intrinsic and non-cosmological, meaning that it meant more it was associated more with their age. Also, they were changing quite rapidly, and they were changing quite rapidly in quantum jumps as they aged and gained mass to one day, eventually, become a companion galaxy. In other words, what he was observing was nothing less than biology in space. No need for a Big Bang or inflation. This really was treated with like it was hilarious, and he was laughed at when he first proposed it, is what I hear.
With disdain.
Much like they laughed at Velikovsky, who turned out to be right.
For that
anyway,
word,
Dr. R wrote a paper to the Bible of Standard Model Cosmology, the Astrophysical Journal. He knew that this was going to eclipse not only the once upon a time nothing exploded story, but faulty inflation too. But what did science do after giving out so many Nobel Prizes in physics for dead wrong theories? Did they admit the mistake and write about the new discoveries of Halton Art, which would have put him easily in the Einstein classification of scientists, probably would have made him the greatest cosmologist in the 20th century. Mr. Menzel and Sagan didn't like that. Needless to mention, they were already in a huff over Velikovsky. No, very disappointingly, they chose to deep six it. Hubble warned modern cosmologists and math-happy physicists not to jump to conclusions, but it was too late. They took it and ran with it. The early 1930s, front page news, the universe is expanding. No, it's not. But wrong, period. They had been waiting for something that they could latch onto, and this was it. Big funding, here we come. Arb's telescope time was taken away, and he was told that if he didn't change his research, he would have to find another job. So Dr. Arp did the only thing he really could do. He resigned in protest. His research, he would have, probably broken-hearted. He was also ostracized and blackballed in the United States. This is why he is now called the modern Galileo. It really just completely gives me this terrible feeling of disillusionment in mankind's intelligence. It has been bought out. Something that I never thought would happen. But it is better to be disillusioned than to continue to live with the illusion. So, at least it's not like that. That is all it is. Modern cosmology goes to the highest bidder. Dissenters are suppressed and covered up, just like President John F. Kennedy said in 1961 in a speech to Congress. American institutions of learning, mass media, social networking sites, and, well, everything is in on the corruption. They shut down truth tellers as hate speech. Isn't that something? How could a scientist continue to go through all the motions when in their hearts they know they're wrong? They have to. They're hiding the truth from the world. I can't get past that. I can't get over it. So imagine, you just discovered knowledge that would completely change the science we know and love as cosmology, but instead of being hailed and rewarded for improving the queen of the sciences, which would and will change the whole world, especially medicine, you were forced to resign by the Palomar Observatory and the high priestess, the moron named Menzel, with his panty-waisted protege, Carl Sagan, who trolled and torpedoed Velikovsky every chance he got. Velikovsky's book Worlds in Collision put mainstream science on its ear in 1950. Sagan's only job then was to follow around Dr. Velikovsky, claiming to have debunked him with nothing but lies. I lost any and all respect I once had for Sagan, with a little s. Who, by the way, his name backwards is Nagas, the famed alien species. Isn't that an interesting coincidence? Many will know he made his name by creating an anti-theory called the super greenhouse gas effect for Venus, to try to steal Velikovsky's thunder when he claimed that Venus, he predicted that Venus, this was before the space age, in the 50s, he claimed that Venus would be at least 600 degrees Fahrenheit, to which the key masters, if you will, had a real hoot and hurrah over. But he didn't stop there. He predicted water on Mars and the Moon, radio emissions from Jupiter and Saturn, and that these two beauties were actually former stars. More hoorahs. That's a Texas term for laughing at someone. However, the part of the story you may not know was in 1962, all of Velikovsky's theories were proven correct. So the two biggest troublemakers for modern gaslight-era horse and buggy cosmology should be known as the two greatest scientists of the 20th century. But alas, it wasn't to be. We find these truths we hold to be self-evident, but they both still sit in virtual obscurity. I don't know about you, but when I saw all of this, I couldn't sit still for a week. People had to know. And I just dove right in and started telling. Because to me, this is finding truth is like a great liberation. You don't feel like the wool has been pulled over your eyes when you know better. You know different. And it has all the evidence on its side. Dr. Arp, he was offered and accepted a position at the Max Planck Institute in Germany. He quickly and quietly very high electric force charges throughout space, he found. Dr. Arp found also very high electric charges in space. And we'll get to that a little later. Anyways, he wrote the book Seeing Red, which carries a dual meaning. Passed away in 2013. And Dr. Velikovsky passed in 1979, sadly. But meanwhile, standard model trickery knows no bounds. So to make the quasars disappear, the mathematicians came in and said, okay, This is what's called gravitational lensing. You're not really looking at 4 quasars, you're just looking at 1, which has to be even more nonsense than the first 2. It's just ridiculous. The mathematicians came in, they said, okay, mathematically speaking, the universe must be running away at the speed of light. Art knew this was lunacy. But the paper was returned to him with nothing other than the editor writing across the top, "This exceeds my imagination." He didn't have any imagination, apparently. That should have been all the more reason to have it looked at and take a look at the evidence. Altenarp gathered his evidence. He moved to Germany to work for Planck, which he compiled a mountain of evidence. For his troubles, his paper was not even sent to a referee, which is what should be done to correct the error by standard model within the network. Arp was considered an outsider for not fully accepting all of their paradigms, which begs the question, why do paradigms exist in the first place? Aren't they a little ridiculous? Now that you know all of this, please take a look at the evidence. The more evidence you find, the more you will know that I speak the truth. As long as it is not being filtered to you by someone with an agenda. But I am convinced you will be too. That our universe is not something where they can create all of these phony dark and black things like matter, energy, black holes, all mathematical constructs. Here are a few very good videos to research. The Cosmology Quest, Part 1 and 2, you'll find them in the description. Besides giving you Arp's evidence, that is overwhelming actually, that the work of Ingo Velikovsky as well. He was a very serious man of integrity and honor, and I have been reading his books for almost 5 years, and as of yet I have not found one misinformation, mistruth, or something that sounded ad hoc or concocted. All of his theories are very well thought out, and he uses mainstream science to back him up. So he uses their own science against them. And they just got really angry and just, started wringing their hands saying that he was a psychologist and he had no business being in the cosmology field. That's pretty funny. Ingo Velikovsky also predicted water on Mars and that Saturn and Jupiter were actually former stars. And all of his theories have been proven correct. I do not know of anything that he got wrong. And, well, here we sit. It's just, it's really sad to think about. He put all that work, his life's work, and he just got deep sixed. It's just, it's so unjust. I don't even know where to begin with it. Unjust. But if you take a look at the evidence like I did, you too will be convinced that our universe is not something where they can create all this phony stuff. Our universe is electric. Plain and simple. I really have a lot of affection for both men because they were men of integrity and somewhat role models for me. I'm very impressed with men who make a stand because they believe in something they know is right. Not a lot of people do that these days, especially do it and still make a living.